Welcome to the Resting Stitch Face podcast. We're your hosts, Dr. Erin Sheffield
and Dr. Sarah Harding. We're just two oral surgeons trying to find our way in this crazy life. Hello.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing today?
It's sunny and 75, so it's beautiful. How
Rub
about
it
there?
in. We've been raining cats and dogs, as they say, all morning. So if you can see in my back porch, super dark for being
yes.
lunchtime.
I do see.
But that's why San Diego is the promised land. We wanted to talk today about the juggling act of being women surgeons with families. And so I've just been thinking, the phrase that we all have the same 24 hours in the day. But I am convinced that we as moms and as surgeons might have less minutes in those hours.
I think that's a good point because I always feel that way.
We're all busy, and you and I are both moms, and I would venture to say we both feel overstretched and busy all of the time. But do you think there is something different about being a mom in oral surgery or in dentistry or in a high-power career in general, or do you think it's kind of the same for all busy women?
I kind of think it's the same for all women in general, all moms especially. And I think that it doesn't matter if you have one kid or 5 kids, it's a lot to juggle. And especially if you're in a career where other people have a lot of demands on you as well, it's a lot. And it tends to really take it out of you, me at least. So I think it's a lot. And I always thought that, oh, well, since I've been through residency where I was used to not getting any sleep, and I thought, oh, okay, well, that'll be great. I'll get through the early stages of infancy and all of that with a little sleep, and I'll be great and it'll be awesome. But there's just something different about being a mom. It hits differently, doesn't it?
Oh, I totally agree. Yeah, I say as a mom, you're just always on call.
Yes.
Or at least in residency, they give you some time off. Was your residency strict about duty hours? Because ours, since we were technically dental, we weren't really under GME, so we didn't have a strict 80-hour limit like many of our friends do unless we were on their service. So we didn't really have those protected hours, and I remember being on call as backup call for a month straight, and you'd just be up, seemed like all night fixing 5 mandible fractures in a row, and then the next day be at work. And so I think that part's different. And like you said, I thought it would prepare me, but when I had twins, there's like
no preparation.
There's no preparation for that. Yeah, and you're just always you're up every 2 hours for the rest of your life, it feels like. In that moment, there's no post call, there's no going home and sleeping off. So it's definitely crazy. And I always say, I think the times that I'm home, stay at home momming it is way harder than the times that I'm at work.
It
What
is.
do you think?
I agree. And I was thinking about this yesterday because I think that when I'm here at home, I have so many things that I want to get done before I go to pick up the kids. And I'm like, okay, I'll do all these things and then I'll hop in the shower and then I'll go pick up the kids. And then it's like, oh gosh, I have to leave in 15 minutes. I haven't even done half the things I wanted to do and I haven't showered yet. I feel like there's, like you said, less minutes in every hour. I just think that it's difficult to get all of the things done and to feel like you're accomplished because when you do the laundry, it never ends. It's hard to feel accomplished.
I agree. I have lots of friends who, when they first meet me, seem a little intimidated. You're this fancy surgeon, and I'm just a mom. I'm just a stay-at-home mom, and I hear that all the time. And you're not just a stay-at-home mom.
Right.
That is a busy, crazy job, and I admire you for the work you're doing and all that to take care of. It's a lot.
Yeah.
What do you think makes it different being a stay-at-home mom versus a working mom? What do you think the differences are and the challenges there?
When I was working full time, I felt like between patients and I had a lunch hour and I had downtime, I was able to take care of things like paying my credit card and all of those little details. I was able to take care of those things. But when I'm at home, I feel like all I see everywhere is things that I've got to get done. And so then I'm like, oh my gosh, I missed 7 text messages from Erin because I haven't even looked at my phone all day. And I'm just busy doing stuff. And I think that to me, I found that work was a little bit of a reprieve. I don't know if you feel that way, but I think maybe I was a little more productive productive in the way that I felt like I was actually able to get some things done and some time away. Whereas when I'm at home, I feel like it's never, ever done, even just stuff that you wanted to get done that day. What do you think?
I'm really lucky that I work part-time. I work 3 days a week, which for me seems to be about the sweet spot. I've worked more, I've worked less. If I work too little, coming back to work feels like coming back from vacation every single day that I work. Like, oh, I have to go back to work. It's not routine enough that it's easy to go back.
Yes,
3
that's the
days
problem I'm dealing
is
with now. Yeah, I understand.
3 days is routine enough that I'm used to going to work, but I also have those days at home where I'm able to focus on getting those things done. I just marvel, how do you go to the bank as a working person? How do you make appointments
Yeah.
and
How do you
go
get your
to
oil
your own
changed?
dentist? How do you get your oil changed or meet the
Right.
plumber or go to the school play? There's always things like that cropping up. You got to bring treats for XYZ at school. And so I'm so grateful to have those days to get caught up. And I think it makes me a better mom, but it also makes me a better person. I think it's just really nice that I get some time with adults and I get to feel like Erin at work.
Right.
I get to be
Yes.
Dr. Sheffield. I get to be Erin. I remember who I am outside of my kids and my family, but then when I am home, I'm much more
Mhm.
present and um, I feel like it's just a little more balanced. So I really
Right.
appreciate that I get to do both. And I know not everyone does, most people don't. And so that could be really tricky. I think it's really hard when you're that surgeon mom and you can't
Yeah.
predict what time you're going to be done
Right.
exactly.
Right.
My schedule says I'm done at 3:30 and my last patient.
J consult that came in and you had to do all of your testing or the paresthesia that comes in. You have to do all of your testing and your notes have to be much more extensive. And so you can't just whip out a quick note. You have to really be thoughtful about it. And so it takes longer.
Yeah, and the ER is calling and asking you questions even if you're not on call. I mean, it's
Yeah.
unpredictable. And so that for me is the tricky part where I'm rushing home to soccer practice, to dance, dropping the kids
Mhm.
off. We're out of that little kid phase at my house finally, and we're in that soccer mom phase, which I would say is almost worse. I hate my kids having a schedule because my own schedule is crazy enough. But
Yes.
how do
I
I
get
get
that.
how do I get meals? How do I get healthy meals on the table?
I don't
How do we
know.
not eat
Right.
McDonald's every day? That is
Mhm.
definitely a battle. How do you get the laundry done? How do you clean the house? How do you be present as the mom and the wife
Right.
when you're doing all these things? So I'm so grateful that I work a couple days a week. But
Yeah.
what strategies have you used to kind of help get that balance?
I don't know, I've never found the balance. So my strategies are it's really difficult, and I find that every stage of my kids' life, what I think I've figured out is now different. It's good in a way too because they're learning as well. So I think I need to be better at actually making to-do lists because I get in this space when I'm not at work where finally I get some time to relax, and then I do things that are wasting time, right? And that's okay. It's okay to waste time sometimes because you need that as well. But I wish that my wasting time was something that's a little bit better for me as a whole person, as opposed to like scrolling Instagram or looking on Amazon or things like that. You know what I mean? I wish that I could read this book that I've had sitting on my nightstand for 8 months, more than just 2 pages at a time. So I think I need to be better about writing a to-do list to actually have it written out because that's always worked for me in the past. And I know that doesn't work for a lot of people, but I think that works for me to keep me accountable. At the end of the day, I was working at an office that was not far away, but with the traffic here in Southern California, it was taking me an hour and 15 minutes to get each way. So I'd leave my house before my kids were awake, and I'd get home as they were getting ready to go to bed because it's just how it worked out. And those days just felt so icky to me. I couldn't do it. And so that's the hard part of choosing where we live. How far is your office from your house?
You saying 75-minute commute is interesting to me because I have done a 75-mile commute. And that was when I was trying to get pregnant and when I
Mhm.
first had my babies. And when I didn't have children, I didn't mind the commute, actually. It was kind of nice detox time. I think it actually helped with my burnout. I had some quiet time to process the morning or
Yeah.
prepare or to come down. But once I had kids, it was torture. Like, I gotta get home, gotta get home, gotta get to the kids.
Right.
And now it's such a blessing. I live about a mile from work and I still complain because they're literally, I think, 4 school zones on the mile to work. So
Yes.
it takes me 7 minutes instead of 4 or something like that.
Yeah.
Key for me was just carefully choosing a practice in the
Location,
life that
location,
we
location.
wanted. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I think we're living kind of two, I would say, opposite realities. I feel like San Diego is the promised land of the United States. The weather is amazing and it's beautiful, such an amazing location. And I live in probably the complete opposite. I am in a total flyover zone, small rural community. Town's not terribly sized. It's about 45,000 people, but there is not really another sizable town within an hour and a half, 2 hours. So when my husband finishes residency and we were hopping off to finally get to our jobs, we'd ask people, "Where are you going?" And they'd be like, "We're taking jobs at Stanford and we're taking jobs at Harvard and we're moving to, these fancy cities, etc." And everyone was so impressed and wow. But as we talked to them later, like, "Oh, you live in a one-bedroom apartment and you spend
Right.
$6,000 and your nanny bill is 20,000 a month and you only get to operate on Saturdays and you work 6 days a week and oh, you never get
Yeah.
vacation." And they're asking us, "How do you guys get to come visit us? And how do you get time off?" And we are very lucky that, I guess, since we live in a place that is less desirable, a lot of people would say, there's just such a demand and a need for us to be here. And so we have more
Mhm.
flexibility to make our life how we want. So I'm
Yeah.
working 3 days a week right now. My husband, who's an ears, nose, throat surgeon, is working, I think he works every day most weeks, but he a couple days a week goes late enough to take the kids to school, and a couple days a week he gets done early enough to pick them up from school. And so I'm just really glad that we're able to kind of get out of that traditional routine or that patriarchal view of how much you have to work, what hours you have to work, how you have to make it work, where you have to work, and
Mhm.
to just do what is working for us and not worry about all the outside noise when it comes to making those decisions.
Yeah, I don't think there's an easy way. So I was in that job and we had an au pair, which was really helpful. And so I was able to leave my little one here with her and go when my husband was flying internationally and go down to the job down in San Diego. When she left to go to a different family, we interviewed others and just couldn't find somebody that really fit our family. And I was like, I think this is time. This is the universe, the cosmos telling me that it's time. And so I left that job, and thankfully, our friend Kristen here is starting to get busier, and so I've been able to work there. And that's an office is a mile away, and there's literally nothing that's 5 minutes away from my house. So it's incredible, and
That's
that's been really
amazing.
nice. You know what I mean? And so, but I was just in a flurry of that season of my life. Was just I felt like I just needed to chop everything down, bring it back to the basics, and establish what I felt were my priorities, which is my family, essentially, and then figure it out from there. And, thankfully my husband works and I can do that, but I really still felt this stretch because I've never not worked. I don't ever lead off with what I do for a living. I don't identify myself as my job, but more as just a part of who I am. And so I didn't feel like that draw that I wasn't like Sarah or Dr. Harding anymore, but I still need that independence and that ability to earn money because I've just always had that. And so I think that's what's been really interesting. It's been an interesting journey over the last 8 months.
I remember you telling
So,
me that you quit your job and you didn't sound at the time like you had a landing spot. And I was so proud of you. I kind of jealous just because that's so hard to do, especially when you've done everything you've had to do to get where you are.
mhm.
It's such a huge investment in time, in money, in your mental health, in all the sacrifices you made, all the birthdays and the holidays that you missed, all the late nights on call. It's such a sacrifice to get there. And so It would be really scary for me to just
Right.
step away.
Yeah.
I admire people that are willing to take that scary leap to do what's right for them and their mental health or their family or,
Right.
whatever the impetus is to have a fresh start and take that leap because they kind of grind it into us, even not working full
They
time.
do.
If you don't work 80 hours a week as a surgeon, you're
Right.
letting the world and the community down, or there's so much pressure to produce and to show up and to give your all to the calling of medicine. And so I think it's really inspiring that you were willing to take a step back and decide, how am I going to make this work? And I'm glad to see maybe you getting some feelers out and trying to, step back in a little bit. But I thought that was really brave of you.
Yeah, it's hard to do because it's hard for us to already who have already sort of broken the mold by being women surgeons, especially in the dental field, because there's very few. We've already kind of broken the mold. And so then in order to decide to step back and do it's that sort of pain body that well, that's what they expected of us. That's why they told us that we don't belong in this space, is because they know that our children are going to be our priority. But I think the hard part, or the beautiful part really, is that especially in this day and age, we're kind of seeing this sort of upheaval of like what things are supposed to look like and how you're supposed to do things. Well, I think we're seeing so many changes and so many creative ways of doing stuff. Like when a traditional oral surgeon goes to the office Monday through Friday, 7 to 5, takes a lunch at noon until 1, and has this schedule. I think that it's really important to take a step back, because I also don't want to be that. I don't want to be the staff that stayed at work until 7 p.m. and missed family vacations because they were on call and things like that. I just don't want that. And so I think it's a good opportunity at this point to step back and say, okay, what creative ways can we still practice and be oral surgeons and help patients and be available, but also be able to step back and take time for yourself so that you are more present for your patients? Because when I was growing up, my mom was told, I'm not even sure if she was told this, but her mom was a stay-at-home mom. Her dad was a physician. And I think my mom sort of poo-pooed that. She just was like, "Oh, I and so I don't want to be like that. I need to have more purpose." And sort of looked down on her mom, maybe not intentionally, but I think did that. And so she went to college and got a chemical engineering degree. And she was like, I was told that I can do it all. And she really, really worked hard to do that. But she was so stressed. I mean, I could just feel it. Every day when she'd get home at 6 o'clock, we were all crazy, running around, and she needed to get dinner on the table and make sure homework was done. And my dad was helpful, but not especially. Just watching her do that, it made me realize that I needed to establish boundaries and figure out like how, for longevity's sake, like how am I going to be able to do this long term and not just burn out, because we all feel it. Even so early in our careers, we all felt it. You don't know what's right, but you know that what you're doing doesn't feel right, but you're doing what you're told you're supposed to do. And I think that that's such a trap that we've all been caught in. And so I feel like now is a really good time for figuring out creative ways to be able to do this job and have a family and have a life as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think that idea that women can have it all is a big myth. I don't think it means we can't have a lot, but I think we have to be really careful in curating our lives or the chaos will just take over. So for me, a lot of it is the having it all. If I were really trying to do that, would be there are times and seasons. And maybe over a
Mhm.
lifetime I'll get to have it all, but every moment I don't get to have it all. Sometimes it's a time to take some time off and to be home with my babies. Other times might be kids are at school and we're grinding hard. We have some goals to meet, other hobbies or interests that I'm trying to pick up.
Mhm.
But I don't think that we can do it all. And it's all about having priorities. And I think understanding and being mindful of what the priorities are so that you can make sure you're reaching those is really important.
Right. We were talking earlier about when you're at work, a lot of times, especially after a long day, you're just like, I need to get home. I need to get home. How are you finding ways to just maximize the minutes that you are at work so that you're able to get that much done and still feel like you've accomplished all the things you need to accomplish, but then be done with it and be present when you get home?
Big one that I'm working on lately and has taken me years or a decade to figure out is setting
Mhm.
boundaries at work. And that could be setting boundaries with myself or with patients or with my staff. For example, my own personal boundaries. I'm such a bleeding heart. So if someone comes
Same.
in and it's 12:05 and we're supposed to be at lunch at noon, but they just really thought they were getting the tooth out, or instead of it just being a consult, I'm like, "Would you wanna just get that done now?" "Oh,
Yeah.
sure." The next thing you know, my staff's not getting lunch and I'm not getting lunch. I
Cal-
just wanna be the helper and I wanna get it done. I don't
Mhm.
wanna make them come back, and I've had to realize that when these patients come in difficult situations and everything feels like emergency.
Mhm.
Luckily, most of the time it's not, but when you waited 6 years before coming in and now you're having a little bit of discomfort, we'll try to help you and manage, but
Yeah.
I can't always take that responsibility and own those feelings. I used to always like, okay, I'll come in on my day off and get this done, or we'll stay
Yeah.
late. And at some point, I have so many patients I've booked out months. I can't keep doing
Yeah.
that. So I've had to
Right.
set those boundaries. And then I
You know,
think training your staff to put out as many fires as they can, give them
yeah.
the tools, learn to delegate. I think a lot of us are control freaks and we want to do everything our own, but find the people that you trust so when you know you said to get something done that it will be done and that you don't have to always be looking over their
Terrifying,
shoulder or
right?
doing it yourself.
I think too, it's interesting because there's also the reason why we probably maintain that control freak sort of thing is we went into this field because we're type A, right? We like to be in control. We like to be the ones doing the things. And then when it comes down to it, now, if you have a patient that comes in and you are having your staff manage it, if something goes wrong with that patient and you haven't seen that patient, then you're still liable. And so it's that whole litigious sort of thing too that makes it really difficult. Even as a patient, like for my dog, I always try to see if I can get same day surgery appointments. So I call ahead of time and I say, hey, can we do a consult and then possible surgery that same day? And so we book on in a way that we can do that. And so I understand that patients prefer that because they're having to take time off of work or take their kids out of school. And so I understand. But then on the flip side of that, as the practitioner, you realize, oh, well, we'll do the consult and then we've got to do a treatment plan and then we've got to do all the financials and then we have to do, but in the military, it wasn't like that. It was like, oh, you need this done. Let's get it done. Let's get me a tray and we'll do it. And they were in and out in 10 minutes. But now it's like an extra 45 minutes of paperwork, and being able to actually do that really is a time stretch. And so I wonder, how can you train the staff, or how can we make that more possible? I don't know if that's the right word, so that we can be the best stewards of our, not only our time but everybody else's, like our patients' time as well.
Yeah. I think those are tough questions. And it's going to be different for every practice and every doctor and every staff just because personalities are so different.
All right. Well, we got to talk about self-care. I don't do it. My only self-care is like, I'll be back. And I go down in the grove and I walk around the avocado trees and I listen to the hummingbirds and I find all the hummingbird nests and they're so cute. But that's like my zen space. But these like massage gift certificates are stacking up and they're not going to use themselves. And so I'm just terrible at it. Terrible. How do you do it? How do you find the time?
I think I'm a selfish person and I've never had trouble with the self care. I'm like a self
So
care
good.
junkie. So I think the biggest one for me is prioritizing sleep, which is really hard, especially when you have kids and maybe you can't, it's impossible to prioritize sleep. When I had twins, that just was,
Yeah, not happening.
you can't sleep. So sometimes that's so much of a luxury, but I think really trying to manage your sleep, and then for me, exercise is so important. That's become a non-negotiable for me. If I have a workout on the schedule that my coach has given me, I will not miss it. I will not.
Do you
If
wash your
I
hair every time you work out? Oh, this is the reason why I don't work out, because I can't stand to have to wash my hair and then blow dry it. So
Oh
I
my
just
gosh, it
so I
is
just don't
such
even
a
work. So I'm like,
barrier.
"Well, I'll just not work out. It's fine."
I'm usually like a once a week hair washer,
Yeah,
and so since exercising that becomes more of a problem. So that's probably why I don't really do my hair anymore. If you see me, I don't. But for
same.
me, um, I don't. Yeah, as much. I maybe my hygiene now you guys know, gross. But yeah, that's tricky. That
Yeah.
that makes it hard. So for
And how
me,
long
I've
are your
given up looking
workouts?
beautiful. That's
You
the
still
thing.
look
I don't
beautiful.
think. Thank you. I'm wearing lipstick today just for you.
Mhm,
I think you can maximize the amount of time without spending as much time as you think. I think strength training, lifting heavy weights for women is the fountain of youth and health. That's
mhm.
just what I've decided with all the studying that I have done. Prevent osteoporosis. It's going to help with your longevity. It's going to give you that toned look you want. You got to lift the heavy weights. I think if you're doing nothing, 20 minutes a couple times a week is going to make a big difference.
Right.
Most of the time it's 40 minutes of heavy lifting 3 to 5 times a week, and then try to add in mostly walking for my cardio.
Yeah.
But it could be tricky to find the time. And one thing I realized was it was a real barrier for me to get in walks or jogs, etc., because I had little kids at home. So in the morning it's dark or cold, or
Mhm.
my husband's already off to the OR, and so I have to wake up so early to do that. That's hard when I'm not getting enough sleep. And then by the time the kids come home and I'm home from work, they don't want to go on a walk, or it's time for
Right.
bed. And then by the time I have time for myself, it's late or it's dark. And I would go out for a walk, but I don't necessarily feel safe. And it took me about 4 years of living in this house to realize I have this triangle patch of lawn in front of my house. And I started walking
Yeah.
like a crazy person, like 100 laps a day. Just go out and for an hour, I just walk, not in a circle, but in a triangle
Oh,
over
that's
and over
funny.
again, and then turned into jogging around the triangle. But I could do that any time of day. I could leave my kids inside and feel safe because they could come out and find me. I
Yeah.
could go out at night and know my husband would hear me if I screamed.
Yeah.
That was something that, not everyone has a triangle that they can walk, but just making that a priority and getting a little creative on how I could do that. But it's really tricky. And sometimes at stage of life, I have people messaging me on Instagram because I talk a lot about my fitness online, and they'll be like, "How do you do it?" And I'm like, "I don't know how you do it when you have like three tiny little babies. I don't know."
Yeah.
Those no excuses fitness influencers, like there are a lot of excuses, and sometimes they're legit, but
Yeah.
finding that time and season where you make yourself a priority and your health. But I think self-care so wrongly gets touted as getting your nails done or going shopping, and those are nice, but those aren't really filling your cup.
Right. Yeah.
Fill your cup by doing things that are actually helping your mental health. You go to a therapist or read a book working on your physical health. I think that's really what self-care is about.
I think you're right. I do. Even getting massages and things like that's been one of the biggest things since having my second kiddo is that my hips, like especially on the right side, it kills me. I was going to physical therapy and then pelvic floor physical therapy and it helped and then I stopped doing my physical therapy and now it's back and it's hard because it's really hard to motivate myself because I love to run. But I can't run because it's the whole chain, the whole thing is messed up now because it started with my ACL surgeries on the right side. And then as after I had kids, then it was my hips and now it's my back because all we do is lean to the right, standing on our heads in order to be able to see teeth that are up and, never land.
Oh yeah.
And still trying to make sure that we're not putting our patients on their head. And so it's all of that together. It really makes you realize that you've got so much riding on this body. And so
Mhm.
being able to take care of it with exercise and massages and things like that. I'm even considering acupuncture. I haven't ever done it before, but I'd really like to do that. But it was funny because my staff the other day was talking about why is it that we don't stretch first thing in the morning when we get here? Because everywhere else that has these physically trying positions, and that's a part of what they do. The military, they go out and play soccer and then they all have to stand around and stretch together. And so I think that that's a good point. Why aren't we doing that? And then you come back to it. Well, we're doing our huddle. So maybe we can all stretch while we're doing our huddle the first thing in the morning to really give ourselves the time and the space to do that to help first thing in the morning. And maybe that'll help. I don't know. What do you think?
I think it's a good idea. I love that. You do a little stretching.
Yeah,
When you're getting
yeah.
that IV, you do a squat instead of sitting on a chair.
That's what I do. I do a squat when I'm
Nice.
doing my IVs, but and right now I've got
Oh,
this wibbly wobbly chair. It makes me feel like I'm working on my core. So I got that going for me.
good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
So, what do you feel like you're still working on? You mentioned before kind of those time wasters. That is a big thing for me. I think social media is really hard. I am on my phone way too much. I hate that my kids see me on my phone so much. I'm trying to cut back, but it's really tough.
Mhm.
Part of it is I am on social media as a creator, and so it's important to show up and
Right.
interact and to get ideas. So that's part of it. But a lot of it, I think, is that doom scrolling. And I have felt really guilty about doing that. I saw someone once say, though, that we shouldn't feel bad when we are seeking that connection through social media
Mhm.
because we were designed to be raising our kids in villages and
Right.
we don't have that village anymore. And so when we turn to that social media, it might just be us trying to seek that connection that we so desperately need. That made me feel a little better about it, but it didn't make me stop.
It's interesting because I do feel like you've done like with what you've done, you've really created a lot of community with that time spent on social media, if that makes sense. And so it's not all bad, right? Just like everything. I mean, we try to make everything so hyperbolic, right? Like it's all good or it's all bad. But I think that there's balance in that because you've brought together 20 something women, mostly oral surgeons and dentists. You brought everybody to Tucson and were able to create that community. It would have been a lot more difficult to reach all of those people. Um, and have a good connection with those people enough that we were able to pull that off. And so I think that having all of this influence that you have had so far on social media platforms, I think it is a way of building a village, which our ancestors didn't have because they didn't have the capabilities to do it. And so it's not all good, but it's also not all bad. I guess if that's, the best way of
I
looking at
agree.
it. So,
So I think giving ourselves a little bit of grace. Sometimes we have those super isolating, lonely moments where we just need a little dopamine hit. We just need to see
yeah.
that someone liked something that we said or responded to
Yeah.
something that we
Or
posted.
yeah, or our good friend Kelsey sends us a funny meme. That always works.
She always
It's
sends
so
the
good.
best memes. We'll get her on here and she can share all the meme tips.
That's right. I think the reason why I don't do more of the self care is because it really truly makes me feel guilty about taking the time away because I know that I've wasted time in other parts of my day. And so then when I would take time away from stuff with my kids or whatever it is, I feel guilty and it's not because I'm doing it for myself, it's because I didn't do it for myself when I should have. And I
Mhm.
think that's it, the biggest like takeaway that I've found.
My mom personality, I don't know if it's different than everyone else's, but my mom personality definitely reflects my surgeon personality. When I'm home, I got the things I need to get done. I'm very driven. I've got my list, as you're saying. I'm going to get this, 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 and this done. And I could be super productive. And then I tend to crash in the afternoon and I want to take a nap. And then I feel really bad. Oh, you shouldn't be taking a nap. You should be getting stuff done, or
Right.
you should be playing Monopoly with the kids. And I've realized I think our bodies do want to signal to us when we need some rest. And I've tried to give myself grace for those moments. Like, I don't have to be go, go, go at every moment. It's a blessing to be able to take a short nap if I need it without giving myself a hard time. But it's really
Right.
hard to separate that drive and that achievement that you base your worth on, which I think a lot of us as surgeons do, or as, busy professionals or just in general. One thing I struggle with is doing those things that I know I need to do that will make me feel good, but don't. I have a sleep disorder. I don't know quite what it is yet. I even had a sleep study and they're like, "Yeah, you wake up at least 20 times an hour." You don't have sleep apnea though. I don't know what it is, but I probably have like 5 parasomnias. Either way, sleep is hard for me. I am always tired all day long. From the moment I wake up, I want to go back to bed until it's actually time for bed. And then I don't want to go to bed. And I know if I implement good sleep hygiene and go to bed at a certain time, I'm going to feel a lot better and my day goes a lot better. But my bad habits of staying up late are serving me in some way, right?
The best thing that I've ever done for my sleep happened after the Elevate Summit when Nate was talking about sleep hygiene. And I think he was talking about not eating within a certain amount of time before bed. And I got to thinking, well, I take probiotics before bed. That's part of like my little supplement stuff that I take before bed. And I was like, I wonder if I'm really asking a lot of my body um, to to tackle all of that while I'm trying to sleep. And so I decided to switch it over to the mornings. And I'll tell you what, life changing. My sleep is
Really?
so much better. I sleep so much more soundly. I'm not waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning every night. I only wake up when Rivers comes in because that happens every night, but I'm easily able to go back to sleep. Whereas before, I would be up for a while and have a hard time going back to sleep. But I'll tell you what, it has made a huge, huge difference. And I think it's so interesting because it's the same concept. You know, you're asking your body to be working while it's not supposed to be working. And so I've definitely felt a huge shift since doing that.
I should
So,
try that. I should
mhm.
start taking probiotics at night
No, in the
and
morning.
then stop
Oh,
taking them
yes.
so I can see the difference. I wish I were
Yes.
already doing
So,
that. I could try it and it would help, but
yeah,
yeah, I think that there are a lot of little habits that we do that in some way they serve me. For me right now, it's worth the extra power down detox time from kids and the day to stay up later than I should and then to feel crappy in the morning. But I try to remind myself that there's something better I could be doing.
fair. That's fair.
Anyway, well, I think this is a big topic that we could talk all day about. I appreciate hearing your side and how you're managing or even not managing, which I think is very relatable.
Yes, and
I
also
think,
helpful.
yeah, I
It's
think
nice.
we
It's
all feel
just
that
nice to
way.
know that we're all kind of in the same boat. It doesn't matter what
Yeah.
you do, you know. And I was talking with some girlfriends about that this weekend. Um, two of our husbands were out of town, and another gal came up with her kiddos, and we were all getting together. We were all bitching about something and laughing about other things, and we found that it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter like what you do or where you come from or who you are or what your job is or how many kids you have. It's really hard. Raising kids is hard. Marriage is hard. All of it is really, really hard. But it's also one of those things that I think big picture, when you take a step back, it's that hard stuff and knowing that you can get through it like we did with residency. I look back on residency and I think, how in the world did I do that? I don't think I could ever do that again, but you did. And so I think back, I think about that now all the time when I'm having a really tough time is I say to myself, this is a hard season. This is a hard season. You know, you can make it through it and it will be, the rewards will be plenty. And so I think I just have to keep reminding myself of that and my friends of that, so that we can get through it and get through it together. But it's true. It really does take a village and you have to have that. And so I think talking about it is so important.
I love that. Thank you. Well, we would love to hear from you if any of our listeners have their own tips or feedback. Do you think you can have it all? Do you agree that maybe you can't? Or do you have some magic tips you can share? We would love to hear from you. Please like and follow our podcast and share with your friends. And we'll catch you later.